Hello, happy February 11th, 2023. It's our 11/11, the monthly conversation that we have about living our values. And we are here this month talking about love, what it means to love, what is love, and how that relates to our core values. I'm Amy Johnson, I'm a values and idea integrator, and I like to start off these sessions with reminding us how we talk about core values here. What does it mean for us? So core values are single words or short, small phrases that really connect us to that higher self, to that inner self, that true self inside. And it acts as a bridge between that high self, highest self, best self, and how we are out in the world. Same way, it also works that if we're out in the world and feel disconnected, the core values can help us instantly bring us back to ourself in that moment. So they're a bridge in that way. Our values are something that we get to define for ourselves. Oftentimes in our lives, we are told what we're supposed to value, but in the work that we do here, we get crystal clear about what our own values are. And we really begin to differentiate and separate from the values that were imposed upon us or ones we've inherited without realizing it, and our true core values, so that we can really have an inner compass for ourselves to be out in the world and navigate and see what it means to live in alignment with our highest self. And it's not about doing that perfectly, but it is about doing it consciously and consistently and showing up, because the values are expressed in how we live, how we show up, how we engage, how we have a relationship with ourselves and others. So it's in the how. So love is a perfect topic to bring to the conversation of core values. And I just want to welcome everyone for being here. Hi, Jude. Good to see you here.
I'm so grateful to be here.
Yay. And I think, a place to start, because the word love has many different applications and meanings in our society, our culture. We have one word and we could apply it to like everything from love ya to I love you to and making love. I mean, it could be anything. So it's important to define for ourselves what kind of love we're talking about today, and take a minute for yourself. And in that sense, I think for today I'm going to start with talking about love in a metaphysical sense, and like, what does that mean for you? What does love mean for you? It's hard to define, I have found. So as you can see, the sign behind me, it's that way, you are love. Oh, there it is. And that's the love that I'm talking about. So another way to say that highest self that our values connect ourselves to is love. It's our love. It's the best of us. It's pure. It doesn't get tainted by anything. And it is an expression of beingness, of our humanness. And when we connect that and use our values to express that, then that means we're actually putting love out into the world and spreading love. And that's what I like to talk about with these core values, because sometimes love can be its own core value. I've met many people who have love as their value, and that is amazing. For me, I don't have love as a specific value, but I look at how love is embodied in each of my values and how I express love through that value. So it's kind of hits each of them. And because I see love as a universal truth in that regard. And let it begin with me is, in this sense, remembering who we are and that we are love. So any thoughts on, Jude, do you have any thoughts, not to put you on the spot, about what love means to you? Is this resonating with you, this idea?
Wow, I was like writing notes from what you were saying. That was so profound. And yeah, I really hear you when you say that it's hard to describe because it's an experience, it's like it feels like it's an inner vibration. So how do you quantify that with words? And I think for me, when you ask that question and I pause for a minute, what is it? The first thing that I go to is, how do I love myself? How am I with myself? You know, because that's kind of my, uh, like what I'm shifting right now. And I, you know, it's that when people say, "Oh, you can't love anyone until you love yourself," you know, I mean,
Right.
there's like everything's on a spectrum, right? It's like, you know, but and what I wrote was the words, if I had to put words, right, to this body of work called love, um, it was like an honoring, a respect. And I even wrote like a majesty with ourselves. You
Mm,
know, it's just such a sacred bow, you know, to honoring who we are in all dimensions.
right.
Um, so that's what, you know, came to me in that brief moment that you asked that question. And I love what you said, that, you know, it's embodied in all of the qualities, because it's a love is an essence,
Hmm.
you know, or at least for me, like that's how I hold it. It's not a thing. It's like you said, it's an expression.
Right.
But it's also a feeling. That's why I call it like it's a vibration that I can tap into and experience inside myself.
Beautifully said. I really resonate that. I thought what you said was a magistry with ourselves. I think that is really profound and talks of the sovereignty of love too, right? Like that it's our ability to own that. And I love the royalty imagery of the magistry too. So that's really powerful, and honoring who we are in all the dimensions. And I think that it is a vibration, it is an energy. It's not a noun or a destination, even because it's constant. And we're either tapping into it or not, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you know,
Oh,
the
oh, sorry. Can I just say one? Sorry, go ahead. I'll share when you're done.
no, that's go ahead.
You know, I was just going to say, when it comes to, if I'm bridging it to a value, right? Or even like you said, if it's not a single core value on its own, but it's, you know, within the essence is within each value, it, you know, I mean, this might be obvious, but it's like this quality, this essence, this, you know, energy or vibration. Can I bring that forward in every interaction that I have? You
Hmm.
know, whether I know the person or not, can I just be that person who walks through the world with this vibration?
Right.
Um, you know, and yeah, so it's just great because it's, you know, I always like to say, like, I want to be a person of increase, you know, that wherever I go, I increase the energy or I increase the vibration. And, you know, this just gives it like a little more richness when I really marry it to love.
Right. Yeah, it's really true. There's Valentine's Day is on Tuesday. And so we hear a lot about what, society culture talks about with Valentine's Day. My mom used to call it Love Day when we were growing up. And that's a different kind of love than you're talking about, because that's commercialized love for many ways, but it's still an expression of it. It's just a different version of that. And I do think the practice of bringing this essence that you're talking about, love, into everything we do every day is really powerful, not just that one day of the year. So the Hallmark holiday, as you say. And Valentine's Day can be fun. It doesn't mean it has to be a negative. It just is recognizing it for what it is, too, in that regard. But it's a good opportunity to talk about love, for sure.
Yeah. And, you know, it's a great time to just even really reflect on what it means to us. You know, like you said, I love you said it's commercialized, you know, it's, you know, and yeah, there's marketing around it. You know what I mean? It's like a business in a sense, you know, like Mother's Day or any of these days where we can be celebrating it every day. But put Mother's Day aside, because mothers absolutely need more than a single day to be honored.
Yeah.
But as long as we're talking about love in the essence, does that mean I can eat chocolate every day?
Yeah. Yeah, seriously.
Well,
It's the But that gets back to that thing of loving ourselves, you know?
Right. Yeah. If that feels loving, then I can.
Yeah, right. It's like, what's the energy behind it? The action, is it
Mm,
loving?
yeah.
And I'm glad you brought up loving ourselves, because that was very much tied to the you are love. And then how, it has to start with putting the oxygen mask on ourselves, which means putting the love on ourselves first. And that is, we don't live in a society that really supports that a whole lot. There's a lot of talk about being better, but not necessarily loving ourselves with unconditionally too. There's a lot of conditions put upon what is love or not. And I was told the same thing you were, but a little bit switched. My mom said to me, if you don't love yourself, no one's going to love you. So that
Yeah. Yeah.
wreaked a lot of havoc for a lot of time, because I'm like, well, I don't love myself, so no, I'm unlovable. Okay. A plus B equals C, or A, so, or A equals B, A equals C. So it's one of those kind of things. So just that little twist in the saying meant a whole lot to me then. And I just kind of gave up a little bit for a while. But I do think, but then that statement, to love, you have to love yourself to love others too. But some of those sayings make sense, but they're also can block us too, I think, because it's not always easy to love myself.
Well, yeah, that is, even though it's like a single or two words is a very big context, change.
Mhm.
And because as you were talking, I was thinking, you know, how do we know when we're genuinely or authentically loving ourselves, right? When we're not even in a conscious place. Like I could think I was loving myself by doing things I was doing, right? But I think, like you said, like there's sometimes, when I wasn't loving myself. I mean, that's just such a bigger context, I think. Now, of course, in hindsight and seeing my patterns and behaviors and, you know, not even having values before or thinking values were, maybe values, not consciously, but it's, you know, it's like I wasn't even operating from a place of understanding what that even meant, you know?
Right.
And especially if I'm not understanding it and I'm feeling, I don't really, I'm really garbling this up big time, but, it's like to then carry around that conclusion, right? Well, like I have to love myself in order to be loved. I mean, that's a lot of weight, a lot of weight to carry around and not even understand how to really love myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is where the values come in, right? Like that's why it's become such an important tool to me in many ways. Because when I know my core values, when I've taken the time to really understand them, define them, know what it looks like when I'm living them, I can say and see and feel self-love in a way that makes it more concrete to me. So connecting with my children to dance shows me an act of self-love, right? Because I know that I'm in alignment with connection. Or taking a nap is an act of self-love. Meditating, taking a walk, having dinner, all of those things that I can do where I can connect it consciously to a value demonstrates to myself the love towards me. And so it becomes less of like a quick judgment. Well, I don't feel good about myself, I'm insecure, I don't love myself, and takes it into something, just a different way of looking at it. It takes it out of that framework of, I'm not good enough, and puts it in a different form, because it just is like, oh, when my values are demonstrated and lived, I just feel better. So the other stuff doesn't come in as much. It does sometimes, but then I just have to course correct and calibrate and see where am I kind of off. But that's what the values help me do, is kind of take it out of that framework.
Yeah. I mean, I'm listening to you, right? And every time I come to one of these calls, it just really connects me, you know, to just how valuable the values are, because it's such intentional living,
Yes.
you know, and it's not intentional like a have to or another thing I have, you know, it's there's like a freedom in it. You know, it's like when I know that these are my parameters, you know, I'm just using that word, you know, like there are, these are my you know, reflections to see if I'm living on purpose the way I want to be, if I'm living in integrity with myself and in the world. You know, it's just a really yeah, and especially when it comes to love, because there is that foundation that, you know, like we've all heard, love heals, love, you know, this, love that,
Right.
you know, and it's such a it's really is you call right a universal truth, right? That's what you said. It's a universal truth. And you know, remembering who we are, and who doesn't want to live from that place with reminders every day.
Right.
Well, some people might not, but you know, I'll speak for me, you know.
Exactly. Some people may not. And listen, I mean, the bottom line is it's a very distracted world we live in. So it's being able not to get caught up in the distraction, or thinking we need, you and I've talked about that before, right? Like needing something to buy, whether that be a thing or a course or some more thing to feel lovable too, you know, to feel like we are worthy. And
It's I'm just quoting you because it's still, I'm making a workshop on this, buying to belong. It's still like that is so great. And you're, you know, yeah, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go ahead.
it's the same concept. It's
Mm-hmm.
concept, right? So the values counter all of that external messaging, all that stuff that we have to do that to be lovable, really. And so what the values do is they just remind us of that part of us that is good, is best, is high, is love, is authentically us. And it's not, again, not perfection. There's no perfection in this. It's more just reminders, because it's so easy to forget. I get caught up in it too. So it's not that like I'm sitting here like a monk, not able, not buying anything, you know. I just like anyone else, I can click buy really quickly and get that little hit.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what you just, you know, I'm tuning into what, you know, we're both talking about. And it's really also a choice. You know, if somebody chooses to live with that as their whatever you know want to call it, center, truth, you know, whether it's a core value or not, because really it can be when we're I feel like when I'm aligned with that energy, it can be as simple as, am I responding in my loving, you know, am I showing up in my loving, you know, and am I feeling lovable to myself right now, you
Right.
know. You know, so it can be like using that in, you know, in any one of our values. I'm just looking at my values for a minute. For example, you know, like, am I here? Am I being loving in my connections? You
Right.
know, is that is am I expressing myself from that place, you know, or as I'm, you know,
Yep.
so yeah, well, you know what I mean, like in my self-care, in my flourishing in the world, like does that feel loving what I'm engaging in right now, you know? So it's really a very powerful you know, thread.
Right. Yeah. And there's a real shift here that has to happen, I think, to some extent, because it's like if I'm writing something and I'm active in my creativity, can I do it? Like, can I love my creativity? Can I have fun doing it? Like, how am I showing up for it? And the energy behind it. Because I mean, I've done things that are hard too. It's not that it's not hard. It's just what makes it super hard is the self judgment, the self criticism, the not enoughness, the fear of like not being lovable, right? If we're not loving ourselves. So it is like it's bringing the love to all of those things. that we do each day and in the expression of our values, because creativity is one of my values. So if I'm writing something, can I love my writing or love my writing? Love, like not love the writing itself, but love the process of it. Find my way into it and come from that place, which when I'm stuck doesn't feel good, or when it's shitty or feels shitty, it doesn't feel good. But if I can just bring some gentleness and love to it, then it's different. It shifts it, as opposed to like, and I also can get up and go and connect with my body, which helps me get out of my head sometimes too. So that's why having a set of the values, the 5, can really like help keep it in harmony too. So it doesn't get out of line in one way, but I do love, to me, is also like, just having more fun in life, having more smiles, having more joy. Even if something we're doing is unpleasant, which there are plenty of things, just driving away.
The word that just came to me was like playfulness,
Yes.
like a levity to, to how, playful in our loving.
Right. Because I have a tendency, and everyone may not be this way, but like, like integrity and sustainability are the values that I go to pretty quickly and right on. And I've needed to bring in more flourish, and how do I bring love? Can I be in integrity with love and not like self-righteousness? Can I be in sustainability with love, not just loving the earth, but loving those who to some extent aren't? I mean, that's a hard one. How do you love fossil fuel companies? I don't know, but that's the practice too, seeing how to find the love in it all. And
wow, that's really profound what you just said. And I think about transparency right here. What I've been really looking at these last few days was just my level of judgment, and can I see the loving in this person or in this experience, because really at the end of the day, for me, everyone is doing the best they can with what they have.
yeah.
So can I see that even though there are differences, or even though what I see them doing, isn't the way that I would necessarily doing, can I just see that they're in love with what they're doing, or they're, that they have the possibility in them.
Right.
And even that is like kind of a judgment, because that means I know better,
Right.
for
Yeah.
them. But like you just said, this can really become an incredible practice.
Yeah. It
you
really,
know
it is a practice in that way. And the next level too for me is not judging my judger. Can I love the part of me that judges? Can I welcome that in and tell them, and talk to it? Right. So I understand where that's coming from. Like, it's just bringing more love and gentleness to all aspects of myself.
yeah,
And
that was wow. Yeah, and I love my judger. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that one today.
yeah, I
I
mean,
hear you. And it's like, and it can be just like, yes, you can. And it's, anyway, gets into a whole other conversation, but
yeah.
carry on. I'm just going to let you talk.
No, it's all good. I mean, this is why we're showing up, and talking about it. These conversations go where they're meant to go. And I mean, the topic of love and values is a huge one. We haven't even like talked about romantic love that much. So it's like, it runs the gamut, but this kind of love of this essence is, I think, the power of how we live our lives. The world needs more love. There's no question to me in that. And there's so much division and spewing of negativity and things like that. And I don't have an answer except for this idea of, let it begin with me, and focus on what I can do, which is know what I value, know what they are, put them out in the world in all the creative ways that I can see and live my values. And that in and of itself is a demonstration of love. It's spreading love by living my values. So
Yeah, and even when you were talking, it just popped in my head, in mindful self-compassion or mindful, loving compassion, there's a prayer, well, there's a whole prayer, about myself and the world and the person, but there's this one phrase that always really stuck with me about when I see something else or somebody else or some experience that's different from mine, and it's like, just like me, it's like, just like me, this person wants to be loved.
right,
Just like me, this person might be hurting,
right.
and that's a way for me to really like dismantle the judgment and just recognize we really all want the same thing, but we have different ways of finding our way to that expression.
Yes, beautifully said. And I would say the judger in you is doing that too, right? The judger is trying to find love in a way.
Yeah.
Is it the
Yeah.
course? You read the Course in Miracles or done coursework? I can't remember.
I've never fully completed it. Like I got to like halfway, one of those, yeah, never finished it, but go ahead.
I was going to say, there in the course it says, everything is an act of love or a call for love, right? So it's either
Yeah,
or in that regard.
exactly.
So
I love that. Yeah.
you're coming from a call for love, and that sounds great when I'm sitting here on a Zoom with you, enjoying our conversation.
All in alignment of what we're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, we're like, oh yeah, we got this. And then, sitting in a courtroom or in some other situation, and it's very different. And yet there's a part of me that knows that. And, and I can really shift my energy to embody that and protect myself at the same time. It doesn't mean I have to, a call for love doesn't mean I have to, I don't believe, sacrifice all boundaries and, make the other person more important than me. But it does mean I can still love someone and wish them well and pray for them from no contact.
Yeah, from afar.
From
Absolutely.
afar.
And,
Yeah.
I what just came up for me was another, this is just like another kind of learning in all of this. And, in Al-Anon, they say put down the magnifying glass and pick up the mirror.
Yeah.
So in that context, you know, is there room for me to also, in somebody else's responses or reactions, can I look without judgment and just look to myself and say, how can I, well, two things that come up, how can I learn from this in a way that will help me be more loving? But recently, I can't remember what I was listening to, maybe several things, but it's like instead of judging, it might have even been Amy, it was even you. This is who I was listening to. Oh my God, I'm laughing so hard. The thing about the doctor, like, can I just bridge that conversation to invite more loving into the room, into the conversation, expanding, rather than cutting myself off because of my judgment? And can I be the one to bring more loving into this space?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That to me was so profound, because that right there ends separation and opens up to connection.
Right.
Whether they respond that way or not, it's the experience inside of me of opening up to my loving,
Right.
that shifts.
Right.
That's the real healing.
That is the real healing. And it's, it's not, I haven't found it to be always consistent or easy to do or to access, but it gets there more and more with the awareness. And that's why that, like you said, the intentional living, the core values really help me do that consistently. So, because I can kind of shift my intention and attention with a word in a second, right? Like, oh, my aim is to flourish. Judging this person is not going to help me get there. How can I love myself, love them, and just kind of step out of that black and white thinking and into another kind of living? It's really
Yeah.
that
And even
point.
is it in the choice to shift
Right.
for me is a reflection of, am I in my loving or not? Because if there's not a willingness to shift, then I'm out of integrity with my loving of myself.
Of yourself. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's also okay, because that's also situational, right? It's like being able to love that too, because we're not, at least for right now, most of us, I think, are still human. We're not AI robots yet. So we're not going to be able to just turn it on or off. And
Yeah. Yeah.
we have traumas and we have triggers and we have all those things that we
And with
work,
patterns and,
you
yeah,
know,
I mean, this really comes up for me, like just in the example of sometimes when I eat sugar, right? And it's like, you know, I'm trying lately, I've been trying to just, yeah, this is my choice and I want to do this and I'm just going to enjoy it versus, judging myself. This is so not loving what I'm doing, and can I just give myself a break sometimes and just say, yeah, I'm human, yeah, I like to, enjoy something too, and just be in my know that even that decision is loving regardless of what the outcome might be.
right.
It's like that moment to moment choice.
Yeah, it is. And then what are we bringing to it? What's the energy that we're bringing to that experience? And how we're doing it, right? Are we connected when we're eating that chocolate? That's where I have to go, right? Or am I eating it in integrity? Or am I eating it like kind of
Yeah.
I call it, oh, what is that word that I use? It's like it's a scavenger. I can have scavenger energy when I'm really feeling bad about myself, so I eat a piece of chocolate from scavenger energy that's not loving at all. I could eat that same piece of chocolate in a different way and it's loving. So it's like not about the chocolate, it's about kind of the energy I bring to that and being able to recognize that in a second, because that
Yeah.
scavenger energy is really looking for love. I mean, I can hold that in myself as a part of me, but and talk to it and understand where that's coming from, because that was a pretty lonely place. But it's there too. Like it's hard to, you can't pretend,
Yeah.
you want to pretend it's not there, but that doesn't work either. So it's like I can't be loving. I'd like to be loving all the time, but and the values help me get closer to that, I think is what
Yeah.
it,
Yeah,
right?
that is what you just said is so powerful. And there's so many distinctions within what you just shared. Um, yeah. And I think loving ourselves for me is a lifelong process, right?
Right.
Because there's been so much of the up until now, right? The ways that I have lived. I love the word, scavenger, but even just survival energy that has been not loving. And I'm learning my way, how to lean and step and live, you know, in that kind of experience with myself and with the human condition. And um, just noticing how many times I say, and I love myself anyway.
Yes. Yes, we're all.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Oh, what I was going to say was when you were talking about the scavenger, for me, it was just that kind of thing is pain. It's just trying to like heal, like soothe a pain in the moment.
Mhm.
And really, this just came to me. It's like, it's only because in that very moment, I don't know or I don't have access to a different way of loving and expressing myself.
Right. So reach for the quick fix.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And but you said it's the energy, that yeah, that's very, very, very powerful.
Right. And I think what you speak to too, right? It's the pain, and the scavenger energy is that is if the but if I can infuse the pause in it to kind of just recognize that that's what's happening, that's where that kind of the pause is so important in this work. Because once you pause, I can acknowledge that and try and shift it from there and acknowledge the pain that's underneath the scavenger. I can't always do that. Sometimes it's too powerful. It feels too big if it's a really big old wound or trauma, but it more and more it's in it's I'm better able to pause and shift. And
Yeah.
and then it doesn't become about the chocolate or at all, right? It becomes about the energy, which is the part we can.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And there's even times when I take the pause and I'm still choosing in that moment to have it.
Oh, 100%. But it's different. The
Oh,
pause
completely.
is totally
It's there's like a permission, as opposed to just like putting out a fire.
different.
I
Yes.
should say like an allowing, or it's really, you know what, Amy, that is a loving act. It's like, yes, honey, you're feeling the pain and you can still give this to yourself.
Exactly.
That's loving.
That's loving. Yeah, that's the demonstration of the love. Right. And that's what the pause makes all the difference. Because it gives us that moment to really consciously choose and
Yeah.
not just be blind. And I think one of the
Or blindsided.
would you say blindsided?
Or blindsided, like sideswiped, into just there's no blinders going for that thing that I want out of my way.
Right. And it's not control either, because I could fall into that, like just like white knuckle it until it takes up every ounce of my brain thinking about the chocolate in in the cabinet because I'm not supposed to have it. That's not it either. Right. So it's trying to find, and sometimes you have to have those boundaries. I'm not saying not, but it's just sometimes it's just like being able to be with myself through it all and and find that love towards self and know that it's that in the pause, because we're all going to have all kinds of feelings and stuff. And I don't, one of the things I see online, at least in media too, is there's just not a lot of pausing and reflecting happening. So it just snowballs in a bigger way. And that can happen in relationships too. It can happen like on the world according to the media, because I don't know that that's really what the world is, but that's the media's version of the world. And it can also happen in our own lives too. So I think like instituting a pause and the intention of values can really help. And that's what they do too. They can in a second remind us of what really matters. So you could be doing something and go flourish. That's a pause in action, right? So that's what I mean when I say the bridge is like when you're out in the world and things are tough and you need and you want to get connected back to yourself. You don't have to go think about what word or mantra. It's just one of the words you picked. And
Yeah, I mean, it's really it's such an aspect of mindfulness.
yeah, it is, and it's an
Um,
mindfulness.
And I just, I know you said, can I switch gears for a second? Still on the love. I know you said we haven't even talked romantic love, if that was what you used, but here's just an example. So this morning, my husband and I had a little, like a little moment, right? And so, and he and I talk about this a lot, like, if we could just like express in that moment what would feel better or be, better. But really, I just want to say to that, because this has been a new experience for me, having been married a little over a year, even though we've been together for 7. But, you know, for me in this relationship, again, I'm only speaking from my experience, it's really about knowing that, um I have his best interest and the love of him expanding and flourishing and, thriving, and being his fullest expression, having that in my heart, whatever we challenge, it really, it's kind of like a value, its own value, like in a sense, because it's like we can really work through anything.
Yes.
And I'm just reflecting on what happened, this morning. And, I was pretty riled up in trying to express myself, but like I had that as a foundation, like I don't even like, it's not even like I think about that. It just is. But,
Yeah.
there's I think from what I have seen and heard other people in relationships, you know, it's really like a for each other as opposed to defending each other,
Right.
or defending ourselves to each other.
Right. Yeah.
And even though, yes, there are times when I feel like I have to defend myself, there's never an againstness at him.
Right.
It's there's a love that's there. I'm defending to be heard,
Right.
but not like a combativeness that we're not part of the same team. I don't know. Does this make sense?
It does. Yeah. And it's not about right and wrong, right? Which is why it's more kind of about value based. It's just about being able to express yourself, feel heard, things like that. And that internal commitment that I hear you say that you have made is probably part of your integrity, right? That your vow is to want him the best that he wants for himself, right? So, did I say that accurately?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for even just like blending and folding that into integrity because, I find, we also continue to find and tweak and massage and nourish our values through these conversations, through daily life that shows me what's important to me, in a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. There's another Course in Miracles line that says, in our defenselessness, our safety lies. It's one of my favorite ones.
Ooh, writing that one down. Yes. That is just like it in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's
Mm.
in our defenselessness, our safety lies.
And I also feel like I could say in our defensiveness lies our loving.
Right, in our defenselessness, like
Yeah,
more.
sorry, the defenselessness. Yeah.
Our safety lies in our defenselessness, our love lies. Yes,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that's the path. Mhm.
Yeah. Amy, what haven't you done?
Oh my God.
It's like you're like a walking just yeah, profound, spiritual, insightful being.
Oh, thank you. Don't always feel that way, but I appreciate the reflection because it's all, we were both seekers. We both love the learning and we
Yeah.
both love the exploration and to bring, for me, this topic of love is how do I bring more of it? I didn't understand love growing up. Love seemed something like I was like very transactional. It was very much about proving and doing. And it was, so this new idea of love is really something that is powerful to me. And that's why I like talking about it and connecting it to the values, because that's something concrete. Love is so hard to describe as we started the conversation, right? It's hard to know. We can feel it when it's there. We can certainly feel when there's lovelessness there. Like that is dark and cold. I can certainly feel that. But I can't control someone else's. All I can do is stay within mine and set a boundary if I need to and get back to like, okay, in this moment, what value can I live? What value can I reach for? How do I, and in so doing, bring more love to myself and others. And the more of us that do it, that's how we spread love and how I think we make the world a more loving place.
Yeah, beautiful. And even, you know, in these calls, right? In connection, right? In connection, I am experiencing like my heart is so open and full,
Mhm.
right? Which is that vibration and, essence of love that I'm experiencing. So I think again, right, how it weaves into connection, right? It accesses, it taps into that loving energy inside of ourselves.
Right. It lives within it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
It does.
as we head into Valentine's Day, we'll hold all of this in our energetic field and proceed accordingly out into the world. You know,
Yeah. And wow, I when you said like at the beginning we couldn't, define it, but like boy, did we create some beautiful
yeah,
uh conversation around it.
yeah, for sure. And that's kind of that's the point. You know,
Yes. And I have to just say for the record before we close that the love I feel really loving in myself right now because it was in my integrity to come today because I said I was going to,
yeah,
right? And here we are, you and I creating this beautiful experience, at least for me, where it was not my experience prior to this phone call. And so I'm just so, so grateful. And I'm so grateful that for the work you do and how you show up and how you've, support me and I'm sure countless other people. And it's such a beautiful gift.
thank you. I'm so glad you chose to come and be here because it was it is a dynamic, beautiful conversation that lifts me up too. And hopefully
Hmm.
those who are listening will,
Yeah, I really do. I hope that whoever's listening, they can tap into their own experience.
yeah, it's amazing. So
So happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
happy Valentine's Day.
The commercialized one.
Have some
Um,
chocolate.
yeah, really. Buy yourself some roses or, whatever feels loving for you.
Yeah. Remember the pause. The pause
Yeah,
with the
that's
love. Yeah.
it's
Hmm.
really like practice the pause,
Yeah, it is. It is.
you
Hmm.
know.
And
Um,
those value words help you pause.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, Amy, I'm wishing you such a beautiful weekend. Thank you really for launching my day. Really turning it around big time.
Yeah. Thank you too. I feel the same. This was great.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's get to
Um,
talk and really go. That was why I wanted to do this every month, to have these kind of deeper conversations that there isn't really time for unless you make it. So thank you.
yeah.
Thank you for choosing love today. Thank
Yes, and I will put it on my calendar for next month.
you. Yeah. I love you.
I love you too. Truly, genuinely, not like love ya. I mean, I really
Me too. Thank
holding
you.
my heart with, with gratitude and appreciation.
For sure. Lots of love.
All right, you too. Bye.